hear from another student, Ifetayo Kitwala. She is a rising junior from Intersection at Baltimore. Keep showing her love, keep showing her love.
Welcome to Philadelphia. This is actually my first time at Temple, so I'm really excited to talk to all of you guys. So my name is Ifetayo Kitwala, and I'm a rising junior at Baltimore School for the Arts. I'm a theater major. I'm a theater major, and I plan to incorporate the arts with my love for architecture in the future. I am also a community organizer and a student leader with the Baltimore-based nonprofit called The Intersection. Like many of the children you will teach, there's more to my story than you might assume. All throughout elementary school, I was bullied for being different. If by different you mean brilliant, artistic, and attractive, then yeah, that's fine. Just kidding, I'm not that arrogant. But on a more serious note, when I was 5 years old, my parents got divorced. And during my 8th grade year, my best friend passed away. He was killed by an off-duty police officer back in 2012 after allegedly throwing rocks at the officer's door and window. And yet, I never let myself stray from the path I was meant to be on. That I got involved with The Intersection. The Intersection is a nonprofit organization started and run by Z. Cohen, a 2008 TFA Baltimore alum. Yeah. This organization gave me the space to think critically and contextualize my own challenges with a larger sense for justice. It was a place where I could develop ideas and implement them in the field as a young leader. I would like to add that I kind of forced myself into the program. I joined as an 8th grader, as the youngest Intersection student leader ever, a title I still hold. During my first year with the program, we chose to advocate for the Maryland DREAM Act. The DREAM Act is a law that allows undocumented students the chance to go to a Maryland State College at an in-state tuition rate if they are accepted. To be clear, I am not undocumented. I was born in Maryland and have lived here all my life. So this law didn't directly impact me, yet I was motivated to advocate for these students because of my grandmother, who pushed for my own education. While my parents worked, she watched my brother, sister, and I. She would play memory games with us and demand that we read and stay on top of our numbers. If I wasn't taught the importance of education, I wouldn't be standing on this stage right now. I wanted those students, the dreamers, to have the same opportunities that I have. So today, I stand before you as one of the many young people whose voices are often too ignored. A good friend told me once that most young people in Baltimore are born under the impression that they will never make it to be somebody. I have learned over the years just how wrong that statement is. Youth have always been at the forefront of social movements, and I strongly suggest that you allow your students to lead the movements for causes they truly believe in. You will be surprised about how brilliant and how resilient they may be. To welcome the next core of Teach for America teachers into our nation's cities and schools. From what I've gained over the 10 years I've been in school, I'd like to share some insights about what makes a great teacher. The first thing that makes a great teacher is being able to let your students think for themselves and develop their own opinions. teacher who made it clear she was not voting for Obama, even though it wasn't allowed for schools and teachers to push their political standpoints onto their students. We had mock elections, and instead of looking at both candidates unbiasedly, we were taught to love one candidate. In every scenario she created, our fictional voters were more likely to cast their ballots for the candidate that my teacher was voting for. And that was her last year with us. She had done her required 2 years in city schools, and then she left for law school. It was teachers like these who cloud students' mindsets and instills the idea that someone will always be there to choose for you. I believe that we are never too young to form our own opinions. Your job as teachers is to help us find our own voice. Second, a great teacher must love his or her students. To be clear, I don't mean that in a creepy way. What I mean is that you need to dig deep within your own heart and find compassion for each and every one of the people you teach. Be warned, this will not always be easy. Your students will look at you through a critical lens. We are used to being disappointed. We are used to people coming in and out of our lives, and because of this, we pay close attention to whether the adult in the room actually wants to be there or just sees us as a way to get paid. Don't be that teacher. Third, you need to prove that your students can rise above the bleak statistics and stereotypes. You need to embrace their families even when you disagree with their parenting methods. You need to understand the anger that you will undoubtedly confront, and then teach with empathy and love. You will find out that the young man who cursed you out is also raising his little sister all by himself. You will find out that the kid who doesn't show up to class had just witnessed his mother being abused and is cleaning up the mess. But I'm not saying you should be your student's therapist, but you should understand that trauma is real and many of us are living with it. Finally, a great teacher educates him or herself about what they are getting into. As someone coming from Ohio or Massachusetts, moving to Detroit, Philly, or Baltimore, you wouldn't know that city's history, which is understandable. But as teachers, as providers of knowledge, as people who want to help build a better future, your first job is to educate yourself. To be effective in this work, you need to understand the context of the communities you are hoping to reach. For example, Baltimore is and has always been a deeply segregated city. You can walk from one end of North Avenue to the other, and you would have crossed into several different worlds. We've gone through years of redlining, block busting, and subsidized white flight into the suburbs. Most recently, Baltimore sued Wells Fargo's bank for targeting blacks and Hispanics for predatory subprime loans. Our city is segregated because people with power created it that way. For you to understand this history so that you don't think the so-called achievement gap happened by accident or in a vacuum. The academic gap between white and black students is one symptom of a larger sickness called white supremacy. You need to have the courage and honesty to confront that fact. I believe that as a black youth born and raised in Baltimore, I should address what the world has been seeing and hearing about my city. I live on Brookfield and Ducatel. For those who are not familiar with Baltimore, that is about 4 blocks away from the CVS that was set on fire at the peak of the rioting. I sat in my house and watched that building burn with tears in my eyes and fear in my heart. I couldn't stand to see cars and buildings being burned. I couldn't stand to see my city being torn apart. But as a resident of Baltimore, I quickly realized that what was actually happening and what was being portrayed on the news were two completely different things. It is where it all started, and they were stealing jeans and shoes. But they were also stealing diapers and baby clothes and food. That doesn't justify stealing, but it's a sad world that we live in when parents need to steal basic necessities. And that was the end of the coverage. The media didn't show the many peaceful marches organized by young people to protest against the violence. So yes, we are outraged about Baltimore, about Stanford, about Charleston. We grieve for Trayvon and Freddie and all of the 9 victims of the What I am here to tell you tonight is that we cannot become crippled by our anger or our grief. We need to channel that energy into creating a better world that we all inhabit together. Is to learn, empower, and act. Your job as teachers is to guide, interpret, but listen. No matter how difficult your students might be, and they will be difficult, we look to you for understanding and opportunity. So thank you so much, Teach for America, and good luck.